Good morning, good afternoon, good evening based on your time zone. This is continuation video of our LWC interview series. So let's get started. The next question is how to call Apex from LWC. In LWC, there are two ways to call an Apex method. The first one is using @wire decorator. It is reactive. It means you cannot control it. Call every time whenever the component loads or any of the reactive parameter is getting changed, the wire will automatically get called. The other way is to use imperative Apex call. This is manual. Let's say you want to call an Apex method whenever you click a button, or let's say whenever you are submitting any form or whenever you are performing any search. So in those cases you want the Apex method to get called manually, not by default. So wire will get called automatically and this we are calling it manually. So let us understand with the help of an example. So here we are calling the Apex method that does not have any parameter. So first we need to write @wire decorator, and this get accounts is like we are importing it. We have this Apex class and then the method name. So that we have to write, and here we can give wired accounts. You can give it any name of this wire property, and if the data comes, so either data will come or error will come, right? So if data will come, we are storing it into this properties, and if there is any error, we are storing it into this property. So this is the case where we don't have any parameter on the Apex method. It means there is no parameter while we have defined the Apex method. There might be cases we need to pass the parameter because the method Apex method needs a parameter. So in that case, let's say this is the Apex class, right? This is the Apex class. You can see the search accounts method here is having the parameter. So this we need to pass from the wire, right? So here we have again written wire and then search accounts. Then we have this curly braces and we can pass the parameter in this way. So this search key has to match with the parameter whatever we have here and what value we are passing. So this search key is from this, and dollar we have added to make this property reactive. So whenever the search key value is changed anywhere in the logic, it will again call the wire method. It will again call the Apex method, right? So this is how it works. And remember guys, like whenever you are calling the Apex method from LWC in wire, you need to annotate the method with aura enabled and cacheable equal to true. So this is how you can call the method which has the parameter. Let's move on to the key points for wire decorator. The first one is wire is used for mainly for reading data. So you cannot modify any data, or if you want to fetch anything from Apex class, you can do it using wire. The Apex method must be annotated with aura enabled cacheable equal to true, mainly used for read operation. This you need to remember. Like you can fetch any data, you cannot perform DML here, like you cannot do any create of record, update any record or delete any record. Those you cannot perform calling the Apex method from wire decorator. So always remember that one. Moving on to the next one, which is the imperative call. So imperative call, let's say there is a search button, and when you click that search button, this method is getting called, and in this method you have to again write the method which you are importing it from this class, right? The same way in which we have written the wire. And here you can directly pass the parameter if it has any. If it does not have any parameter, you can remove everything inside the curly braces, and the braces also you can remove. So based on our previous discussion, we have seen like whenever we are calling any Apex method, it returns a promise, so that we can handle using then or catch, or using the modern method of async and await. So if the result come, we'll store it into this account variable, and if there is any error, we are logging it onto the console page. So this is how we can do the imperative call. This you can perform like whenever click of a button, or like you are performing any search, or let's say you are submitting any form. On those occasion you want the Apex method to be manual, like you on click of a button this method will get called, and here you are calling the apex method. So it is not running automatically the way wire does, because wire will automatically load, automatically fetch data from the server from the apex class, right? So these are two different methods of calling an apex class. Let's see what are some key points in imperative call. It can be used for both reading and modifying data. It means you can perform insert, update, delete, upsert operations on any record whenever you are calling the apex using the imperative method. It always return a promise, like how we discussed it. You can handle the response using then, catch, and modern async await. So if you are not aware what I am talking about here, you can check my previous videos where we have discussed about the promise in LWC. So this is it about the first question of this video. And also guys, if you want to get all the LWC interview questions, you can check this link and you can download the PDF from there. I have also added this link on the description, so you can go and check it out. Okay, now the next question is, when should you use imperative apex? The call should happen only on a user action, let's say button click, search and save. In that case you need to use the imperative apex. Since you want to perform from that apex method, you have to use the imperative apex. You need the complete control over the apex method, how it executes. Then in that case you need the imperative apex. You need to call the method conditionally, like based on certain conditions you want to call it. In that case you can use this one. So this can be asked in interview, like interviewer want to check if you know in what are the different scenarios we prefer the imperative apex over wire, or what wire cannot do and what imperative apex can do. This can be tested in any LWC interview. Moving on to the next question. This is again very important question, like what is conditional rendering in LWC? Conditional rendering in LWC is the process of showing or hiding UI elements based on the condition. If some element you don't want to show on the page, you need to hide it. Like, so for hiding it, like we need to use some conditions, like in apex, let's say we have used if, else if and else, right? We use these conditions. So just like that, we have these conditions in HTML as well. In LWC, whenever you write the HTML, you can write the conditions as well. Based on certain based on that, the certain things will display on the UI. So as of latest Salesforce releases, the recommended directives are you can use the conditional rendering using LWC : if, else if and else, right? So previously, if you know the older version of LWC, the directives were if, true and false. So these are now deprecated. So whenever you are writing any new piece of code, you need to write LWC if, else if and else, because this is much better than the old one. Now let's understand this one with the help of an example. So in this example, what we want to what is the requirement is, like we want to show this message on the UI, like approved, pending approval, rejected, based on certain condition. What is the condition? The condition is written on the based on the value of this status, right? This is the JavaScript file of that LWC. It has by default value of pending, but if the status value is approved, we want to show it, we want to show approved on the UI. If the status is, let's say, pending, we want to show the pending approval. If the status is any other random value, in that case we want to show the rejected, right? So how we can achieve this? By writing else if. So first, LWC will check from starting to bottom, and if any condition match, it stops there and print whatever is inside that template. So first it is checking this condition is approved. Let's say the value is pending, right? So is approved, what it is going to return from the JavaScript? It will check if the status is approved or not. In this case, status is pending. So this return will return the value false, because whenever you write something like this, it will either return the Boolean value, like either it is satisfying the condition, so it will then return the true. If it is not satisfying the condition, it will return the false. So in this case, this is approved method will return false value, hence this will not going to show on the UI. Then it will come on to the else if. In else if, it is calling this method is pending. What is pending will return, it will check status is pending or not. So status is indeed pending, so it will return the true value. As soon as this receive a true value, it will show this whatever is inside this template on the UI, right? So this pending approval will be displayed on the UI and it stops there. It won't go to the else condition here. So on the UI you will only see this pending approval. If let's suppose is pending is also false, then this will go to else and it will display the rejected value here, right? So this is how conditional rendering works. And also you can only write if condition here. If you don't have the requirement to write these two, you can do that as well. You can write LWC if and then LWC else as well, skipping the LWC else if. So I hope this is clear to you. This is again very common question and you have to have the knowledge of this question. Moving on to next question. You are fetching account record from Apex. The call takes 3-4 seconds. How would you show a loading spinner while data is being fetched and hide it once the data is loaded? So again, these kind of scenario based question is very common in LWC interview. The interviewer want to test, like, if given a scenario, you are able to find the perfect or logical answer or not, or whether you are using a correct piece of logic for solving that problem or not. So in this case, what it is asking, like, whenever the account records we are fetching, it takes some times because it is asynchronous in nature, right? So that time what I want user to see on the UI is a spinner, some kind of spinner. Like whenever you load any page, you might have seen that kind of a spinner until the data comes. So that how we can achieve in LWC. So to achieve this, I use conditional rendering with a boolean variable called isLoading. So let's see this with the help of an example. So this is HTML component, HTML file of that component. This is JavaScript file of that component. Here, whenever the page loads, the connected callback will get called and it is calling an Apex method which is get accounts. So this get account data will take some time because it is asynchronous in nature to reach to the LWC component. So till that time I want a loading spinner to be visible on the UI. How we can achieve that? So whenever the instance of this LWC is created, we have this default value of is loading to true, right? And now let's move on to the HTML component. What we are doing is, like, when the is loading value is true, we are showing the spinner. So this is again from the LWC tag lightning spinner you can use to show the spinner on the UI. So whenever is loading is true, it will show the spinner. Whenever it is false, it will show the data of all the accounts, and this is exactly what we want. So initially when the component instance is created, this is by default true. So by default spinner will be running whenever the page load, right? This value would not show because first condition itself is true, so it will stop there. It won't check for the else one, right? As soon as we receive data from the get account method, what we are doing is, like, we are adding this dot accounts, we are adding the result on this property, and whenever this so there is a finally block as well. So whenever this or the catch anything will run, the final block always run, right? So if there is any error, catch will console it and then finally also runs. If there is data we fetch from the Apex, this will run and then finally will run. In that case, catch won't run. So what will happen here? First, the account data will get stored from the result, and then finally block is going to run. And what it is doing, it is setting the loading to false. Once the loading is set to false, this spinner stop loading, right? Because this value is false now. So it will check the other condition, which is else. So here we don't have any condition, so it will show it will go to else and it will show this data. So this is the account data. So what is happening, until the account data we have received, we have the spinner, but as soon as we receive the data of account, we are setting is loading to false, and in that case the spinner will stop displaying on the UI, and this else block piece of code is going to display on the UI. So this is how you can conditionally show spinner and the value on the UI based on the conditional rendering in LWC. So this is again very trickier kind of scenario based question, where interviewer want to test, like, if you know what piece of logic you need to use for certain kind of scenarios. And again, we are going to cover a lot of scenarios in this LWC interview series, so that it will become one stop for you for any kind of LWC interview. Moving on to next question, can we call aura inside LWC? The answer is no, you cannot call aura component inside of an LWC component, but you can call LWC inside of an aura component. So very basic and theoretical question here. Moving on to next question, what is event bubbling and event capturing in LWC? So in event bubbling, the event starts from the component where it occurred and moves upward to its parent, grandparent, and so on. So let's see with the help of a diagram. Whenever there is any button, let's say on the child component, a button is clicked. So this event will travel to parent and then it will travel to grandparent. So this is about event bubbling in general. I'm not talking specifically about LWC, but what is event bubbling I am discussing right now. So whenever child button is clicked, so the event travels upward from child to grandparent. Right, so this is and it allows the parent and grandparent to handle that event, right? Moving on to event capturing. In event capturing, the event travels from top of the hierarchy down to target element before reaching the element that triggered it. It means there is a event, let's say the button click on the grandparent, it travels downward to the child, till the child, from parent and then to child. So this is about the event capturing. The important point you need to remember is LWC only supports event bubbling. It does not support the event capturing, right? So event bubbling you can do whenever, let's say, you are creating a custom event. You can set compost and bubbles equal to true to allow it to propagate to parent and then grandparent, but there is nothing that handles the event capturing in LWC. It might be possible in other framework, but not in LWC. Next question is also related to previous one, so it will make things more clear. How does a grandchild component send data to a grandparent component in LWC? A grandchild component can send data to a grandparent component by dispatching a custom event. The event bubbles up through the parent component and is handled by the grandparent component. You need to add two things here, like whenever you are creating the custom event on the child, you need to set bubbles true and compost true. So let's understand this with the help of an example. Suppose you have this grandchild component. This is the HTML of parent component and this is the JS of grandchild component, right? So on the grandchild you are setting a event, you are creating an event and dispatching it, right? So you are now dispatching the event from the grandchild and this will go to the parent. Because how this component is parent, because you have used the child component here, so this will make this component as the child of this component, right? So on the parent you don't need to handle the event because you have set bubbles true and compost true. So now the event will propagate to grandparent when you have set this one. If you have not set these two values, by default it is false. In that case grandparent cannot listen to this event, so you must have to set both the values as true and then it will go to parent. In parent you don't have to do anything on the JavaScript side, you just have to add the child component here. And next, this is the grandparent HTML and grandparent JS. So on the grandparent you can see we have added the parent component here, right? and the event which is from the grandchild component. How this grandparent is able to listen to it? Because we have said compost and bubbles equal to true, and grandparent can easily handle this event. So you have seen, like in parent component JS, we have not written anything. We have not redispatching it to grandparent. If we have set the compose and bubble true, grandparent can directly listen to that event and handle that event as well. So this is how you can communicate from grandchild to grandparent in LWC. If it is not clear, you can re-watch the video, because we cannot discuss it into much deep as far as this LWC interview series is concerned, but I will try to make any dedicated video if you write that in the comment that you need a dedicated video onto this topic. Moving on to next question, what is shadow DOM in LWC? Again, this is very important question. You need to have the understanding of what shadow DOM is in LWC. Shadow DOM is a web standard that provides encapsulation for a component. It creates a private DOM for each component, which means HTML, CSS, JavaScript of one component are isolated from other components. This prevents one component from accidentally affecting the another component. Okay, so basically it means that whatever component you are creating, that is isolated from the other component, and that is not interfering, like the CSS or anything event is not interfering with the other component. Let's see this with the help of an example. Let's say we have component A and we have component B. On component A, we have this HTML where we have written hello, and we have created a CSS file here where we are given the h1 tag as red color. So this hello would be in red color. And let's say component B is the child of component A. Here we have given a welcome and the color blue, h1 tag color blue. So in this case, whatever welcome is going to display on the UI would be on blue color. So this is happening just because these two components are isolated and they have the shadow DOM which is isolating these two components. Let's suppose imagine there is no shadow DOM. So in that case, what will happen? The component A is the parent and it has h1 as red color. So whatever welcome you are writing inside the h1 tag, this welcome will show on the UI in a red color only. It will not show on the as the blue color, because these two are, in that case, whenever there is no shadow DOM, these two component will not be isolated, and these two CSS file will interfere each other, right? So this is what shadow DOM means. And there is one more example we can look into. This is about this.template.query selector. This we use to select any tag on the HTML, right, or any class on the HTML. So here let's say we have this one input, lightning input tag on the HTML which has the name class. If you want to select this one, you need to write this.template.query selector and then dot class name, right? This is how you can write it. But let's suppose, so this will only fetch the class name from this component only, from this component HTML only. Let's say there is a child also, and on the child also there is a class name. There is a class with name as the name. So that will not be selected here because the components are isolated. So this will only select the tag which is there on the same component, right? It cannot cross the boundary and go into the child component and fetch it from there, because there is shadow DOM which encapsulate and isolate all the components. So this is all the questions for this video. If you are enjoying and learning new things, please give a like. That will motivate me to create upcoming videos, and please subscribe to my channel so that you are not going to miss any of the upcoming videos. And again, if you want to download all the LWC questions, you can go to this link and download the PDF. The link is also given on the description. Until next time, bye, take care.